Hello YouTube, Rambling Painter back once again. I know it has been a long while since I've been here. Had a lot of things going on between work, family issues. So I am coming back once more to make some videos. Today I've got a special little treat. Today we are going to be talking about recasts, reprints, all of that for any of your miniature needs. Today I actually have here a recast of the Warhound Titan from Forge World, or Games Workshop. Yeah, we'll just go with Games Workshop for this one. And I was able to secure this lovely, lovely little piece for only around $220. Now, while this is a lot of money, anyone who is into Warhammer or even some of your other tabletop hobby games might know some of your larger models such as these on average can range far greater, as a standard knight is around $200. And for the actual Warhound Titan, the one that comes from Games Workshop, it actually costs upwards of around $600 to $700-ish, depending upon certain areas and aspects. Now, as a recast, I got this from wartablegames.me. They are a Chinese company, but they got everything done, like purchase and to my doorstep, in roughly about a week and a half. And I did pay for expedited shipping, which was only like $37. So it wasn't that bad, and overall, a lot of the quality of the parts are actually pretty good. The amount of detail that some of them have. Now, I do not own a Games Workshop Titan. As I mentioned, they are very expensive and a bit out of my budget. Now, I do not know. I have heard that their casts are not the greatest, and even this War Table Games one, as you can sort of see here right on the top, it is a bit thin in certain areas. It's got some blemishes, but resin itself is not perfect. I had Fyodor Karamazov, and his cast was pretty rough on my second purchased one, as I accidentally messed up my first one. Same thing goes, I have the original Belial, and while the details on resin, as you can sort of see here with this servitor part for the gun arm, resin can be very much greater detailed than any plastic miniature. It also struggles a lot when it comes to actually maintaining its shape. Belial's sword is bent out of whack and really bad on my Games Workshop miniature. So for a recast to have so few blemishes, or very minor blemishes, as a matter of fact, I can actually see the lenses here, as you can sort of see my glove sitting through them. The lenses are very thin on this, far thinner than I think they should be. But for those few minor details, I would honestly say the price is very worth it, especially for getting something this large. I have not noticed any great warping or any issues like that. Even my Vulcan Mega Bolter, notoriously the barrels on these are supposedly very warped on the Games Workshop version. And on these ones, they're actually pretty straight. I don't see any problems with them. And I will definitely warn you, for getting into anything this large in resin, some of these parts are, you can kind of hear that. They are very heavy. They are poundages of resin in individual pieces. Now, as I said, not everything's perfect, and being resin's a lot harder to work with. For instance, I actually have a very big idea that I want to run with this kit, and is actually part of the reason I purchased it. I have a kit bash idea, not kit bash, I just have a design idea that I want to run with that involves turning this lovely Imperial version, as, to be frank, the Chaos version is not very fun. I think some of the design choices on the Chaos one aren't very pleasant, but I do intend to sort of convert this into a Slaneshi one using the crew. As the nice touch as a recast, it has the crew. It has all of the internals, all of the pieces. So, recasts are an odd thing. To people who actually purchase Titans, recasts are essentially cheating the game because you pay far less money for something that is basically the same thing. They are taking GW's product and essentially just reprinting it as their own. Now, it is nice for things like kit bashing. It is nice for starting off with something that you're not certain of, because especially a Titan, with the money, as I mentioned, I could have bought 3 Warhounds for the price of 1 GW Warhound. So the recast was definitely far more worth it for my first ever Titan. That way I could get used to building it, because of course these do not come with instructions. They don't have the certificate. They don't have all the niceties that come with the Games Workshop version, but there are so many online copies of instructions that, to be frank, it's not like I'm really missing out on anything. And of course, just like GW resin, I'm going to have to bathe this whole thing. This whole thing needs to be bathed in warm, soapy water to wash off the protective layers. Then I have to build it all while wearing these gloves and using super glue so I don't get the oils from my hands on the model. And I have to work on my kit bashing stuff on top of that without touching it with my bare hands before I can then magnetize things such as the head so I can properly put it on and remove it to view the crew inside before I can then start priming everything. Titans are an investment. They are not a beginner-friendly thing at all. But overall, for a recast, I would say that the War Table Games version is very well done and very reasonably priced. So I would definitely recommend giving them a try if you want to try getting into recasts, or even really want to put yourself out there and trying new things without breaking the bank, because there are some models, some pieces that just get so big, or they're made of certain materials such as resin, that stripping them becomes a lot more hazardous, a lot more problematic, and possibly even near impossible. For instance, one of my Contemptor Dreadnoughts, I wanted to strip the paint, but when I tried, it couldn't fit in the jar I had for stripping. So at the end of the day, I was left with a broken model that I could not remove the paint from, and the paint was too thick to just paint over it. So recasts can be a real nice way to practice, especially for their lower prices. I mean, there's same thing goes, Black Market Miniatures. They have a large number of recasts, including even more older casts that are definitely no longer in production. So you can go on there to find some really cool things. The War Table, as I said, their Titans are probably the cheapest I have found anywhere. And they have every version, including the Warbringer Nemesis, which, once I save up enough, the Warbringer Nemesis will be my next project, because I really like the way the Warbringer Nemesis is, better than even the Warlord Titan. So, all in all, while some people would definitely say recasts should be avoided if possible, I do understand that for, say, Titan walks or all these things where people basically go to show off that they have purchased the best Games Workshop offers, sure, they're not a fan of recasts, and I do understand that for some people, bringing a recast to any kind of official event, I can understand why some people are not a fan of that. But for a casual event, for trying things out, for having a beautiful painting project, or even just to have this really cool centerpiece to any kind of diorama or anything that you may want to use, either as a professional or an amateur trying for something new, recasts are very much worth it as far as I can tell. And especially this one, I have not found any major problems. Of course, you always have people that say, oh, well, parts are broken, customer service problems, all this, that, and the other. But to be frank, that is something you can get even with Games Workshop. I have had problems with customer service, so it is not the worst thing ever to have these kinds of, to go and purchase some of these things from a secondary creator. So at the end of the day, it is all up to you. This review is purely from what I can tell from what I have got from my purchase. It is the best recommendation I could provide to somebody wanting to get into something that does, on average, cost a lot of money. Even some of their knights, they have some of the resin version of knights that currently on Games Workshop go for 300 plus US dollars for only about 90, which is the cost of buying a 2 set of armatures or war dogs. So it's up to you if you're willing to give things a try. Do be warned, have a PayPal account. If you are going to buy anything from Word Table Games, that is how they bill you, so that way you're not having to put any information on the website. They will just send it to whatever email you have attached to your PayPal. They will send the charge there. Same thing goes Black Market Miniatures. I don't know how their payments are set up, but having a PayPal is probably for your best. And overall, these are not something to be feared, especially just from the artistic and community side of the game. If you are hunting to trying to get into official events, large-scale events, sure, that's a different story. You want to avoid recasts as much as possible, because secondhand purchasing can be a complicated thing, because as you can tell with this, I mean, the quality is not bad by any means. While there are some scuffs and problems, those minor problems can either be easily covered up or even possible on the Games Workshop variants. So it can be hard at times to actually tell the difference between a recast and the original. So do just be mindful of what you're buying. If possible, for things like Titans, I personally would recommend going through the actual provider for any of them, even a recast. If you wanted to purchase a recast, do not look for secondhand recasts. For one, 90% of those are pre-painted. They are not selling you the unfinished model to do with what you want. They are selling you a finished product, which makes it not only more expensive, but it makes it far more difficult to possibly paint it how you would actually want to. So far, I'm going to go and wash all these pieces up, start putting it all together, and I may provide an update once I get more of this put together, once I actually have gotten some of my kit bashing setups done. I may do a show off of what I have been doing with this. Overall, I would recommend recasts if you are not wanting to break the bank but still want a good product for a large-scale painting project. So, anyways, as I mentioned before at the start of the video, it has been a while. I will probably not... I will not be as consistent with videos as I want to be. I am going to try and get back. I burned myself out. I did too much too fast. While I didn't do a lot of videos, I was sitting there for mile-long topics when I should have been sticking to more shorthand like this, where instead of going for almost an hour straight of speaking to nothing but all of you who are listening, just short, overhand views of situations and things. For instance, Space Marine 2. Everybody knows it. Everybody's been playing it. So I will probably do a video talking about it here sometime within the next couple weeks so I can get more time playing it to kind of get the overarching view, as I'm a bit slower than other people to play it. But for now, I am back. I am doing okay, and I thank you all for the wait, and I hope I can continue to bring you some good, fun content to help provide you some good guides on your painting journeys and your enjoyment of any hobby that you have. This is the Rambling Painter signing off for today. Have a good day, everybody.